He's such a gentleman. It's really, I kept asking PJ to precede me out, and he just couldn't bear it. So, so welcome to this conversation with PJ O'Rourke, who has written this wonderful book, The Baby Boom. PJ has fashioned this book as only he could. It's got some terrific lines, great one-liners, but also a lot of insight and some actual information. I was disappointed at that, but we'll forgive you. We'll forgive you. Okay, so I love to hear authors read their own work. So I hope you'll indulge us while we've asked PJ to start us off with a selection from the book.
A brief selection. Yeah. And this was actually this was the first thing I wrote when I sat down to write this book. After thinking about it for a while, this was I said that we are the generation that changed everything. Of all the eras and epochs of Americans, ours is the one that made the biggest impression on ourselves. But that's an important accomplishment, because we are the generation that created the self, made the firmament of the self, divided the light of the self from the darkness of the self, and said, let there be self. You know? If you were born between 1946 and 1964, you may have noticed this yourself. You know? Now, this is not to say we're a selfish generation. Selfish means too concerned with the self, and we're not. Self isn't something we're just, concerned with. We are self, I mean, before us, self was without form and void, like our parents in their dumpy clothes and vague ideas. And then we came along, And now the personal is the political, the personal is the socioeconomic, the personal is the religious and the secular, the science and the arts. The personal is everything that creepeth upon the earth after his, and let us hasten to add, her kind. If the baby boom has done one thing, it is to beget a personal universe, and our apologies for anyone who happens to personally be a jerk. He says self is kind of like fish, proverbially speaking. You give a man a fish and you fed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and if he turns into a dry fly, catch and release, angling fanatic up to his liver in icy water, pestering trout with a 3-pound test line on a $1,000 graphite rod, well, at least his life partner is glad to have him out of the house. So here we are in the baby boom cosmos, formed in our image, personally tailored to our individual needs, and predetermined to be eternally fresh and novel. And we saw that it was good, or pretty good. Anyway, I mean, we should have had a cooler name, the way the Lost generation did. So good luck to anyone who tells us to get lost. Anyway, it's too late now. We're stuck with being described as exploding infants, and maybe it's time, now that we've splattered ourselves all over the place, for the baby boom to look back and think, what made us who we are, and what caused us to act the way we do, and what the fuck? Because the truth is, if we hadn't decided to be young forever, we'd be old. The youngest baby boomers born in the last year, when anybody thought it was hip to like Lyndon Johnson, are turning 50, and we'd be sad about getting old if we weren't busy remarrying younger wives, and reviving careers that hit glass ceilings when children arrived, and renewing prescriptions for drugs that keep us from being sad. And we'll never retire. We'll never retire. We can't. The mortgage is underwater. We're in debt up to the Rogaine for the kids' college education, and so it serves us right. Because we're the generation who insisted that a passion for living should replace working for one. Still, it's an appropriate moment for us to weigh what we have wrought and tally what we have added to and subtracted from existence. We've reached the age of accountability. The world is our fault. We are the generation that has an excuse for everything, one of our greatest contributions to modern life. But the world is still our fault. It's just a matter of power and privilege demography. Whenever anything happens anywhere, somebody over 50 signed the bill for it, And the baby boom, seated as we are at the head of life's table, is hearing Generation X, Generation Y, and the millennials all saying, "Check, please."
Ah, wonderful. Oh. I also chose another, just a couple of paragraphs to ask PJ to read. Do you need your reading glasses, dear? No.
Yes.
Oh.
I've got big type.
This is near the end of the book. It's a bit of a summing up, and so you can see sort of where PJ lands with this.
So it's
just
from there to turn the page.
Right
Got
here.
it. Got it. And yet we are the best generation in history, which goes to show history stinks. But at least we are fabulous by historical standards. The baby boom was a carefully conducted scientific experiment. The empirical results are us. You take the biggest generation in the most important country, and you put them all into excessively happy families, give them too much affection, extravagant freedom, scant responsibility, plenty of money, a modicum of peace if they dodged the draft, a profusion of opportunity, and a collapse of traditional social standards. And you get better people. Well, not better, really, not better. I mean, taken one by one, we're as maddeningly smug as Abel and as vile as Cain, the way people always have been. But we're better behaved, although better behaved isn't the right way to put it either. I mean, we're willful, we're careless, we're rash, we're vain, we're indulged, we're entitled. But we're still swell.
Love that. Thank you. So this book actually has a very interesting structure. The chapters are sort of essay length, and you blend in some real memoir stuff about your life, along with a lot of broader thinking about baby boomers and how we got this way. You start by, as we all know, I think the baby boom started in 1946, lasted the last year of the baby boom, births were 1964?
64, yeah.
So, PJ, you were born sort of on one end of the spectrum, I on the other, although it is a defining characteristic of baby boomers that we all look the same age.
Yes.
So,
about 18 by my rough estimation.
But you describe the baby boom experience as seniors, how perfect, high school, seniors, juniors, sophomores, and freshmen. And you were in the senior class.
I'm in the senior class. It's me, Cher, Hillary Clinton and Bill, they're seniors. Cheech. See, it's my thesis of seniors are like, we were right at the bow wave of this voyage of exploration that would be the baby boom. But we were also tethered very closely behind our parents, the greatest generation. And so we, in effect, got keel-hauled. We got dragged under the boat, And if we wound up a little soggy, as a sort of, as financial advisors with tongue studs and, Trotskyites trying to start Tea Party protests, we are to be forgiven.
But your senior class was really on the vanguard of so many things, including Vietnam and drug taking and sex. And by the time the freshman class came along, I think, well, in my case, as I'm the youngest of 4, I watched all my 3 older siblings do all of these things, and it scared me witless, and I did none of those things.
Yes.
So it's as if I grew up in the 50s.
The younger baby boomers are more cautious, or as I put it in the book, I said that they embraced sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and the deep philosophical underpinnings thereof.
Who wouldn't?
But yes, they'd seen us in action. They'd seen the older baby boomers in action, and they knew that what works in general doesn't always work when the bong sets fire to the beanbag chair. So you can